This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Ornini, and these are your headlines. Bird flu is back, and as always, it is the vulnerable at threat. A father electrocutes his son to death, and why drugs will make you dance a dance of the dead. But firstly, our headline story, and it's bird flu, as another 2 cases have now been reported. Bird flu keeps drifting in and out of our consciousness, and these few cases here and there may well lead to some complacency. But complacency can be very deadly indeed. And believe me when I say bird flu is a truly frightening disease. So far in Cambodia, there has been 66 cases. And of those, an incredible 41 people have died. Now, let's get some perspective here. The other disease that keeps rearing its head of late is monkeypox. And of 93,000 cases of monkeypox, only 176 people have died. That is a mortality rate of just 0.18%, not even 0.25%. But with bird flu, it's a wholly different story. And that story is out and out scary, as the death to infection ratio is staggering. It is nearly 65% of people who contract the disease will die. Now, that death rate is so bad, it is even higher than the Black Death, which in comparison had a death toll of 47%. The latest cases of H5N1 involve 2 children, the most recent being a 5-year-old. The case prior to that was the young girl's cousin, who was just 3. An investigation discovered that both chickens and ducks in their village had been dying en masse, and the child's parents had ignored warnings, and instead of disposing of the dead animals, they had instead eaten them. And it is believed the young girl had simply touched a dead chicken, and that alone was enough for her to catch the deadly avian flu. The ministry has stated that emergency response teams are now in the area, and they are keeping a very close eye. On this week's Crime Desk, a father electrocutes his son to death, a woman dances the dance of death, and what happens to wannabe gangsters? An entire family has been arrested after a young boy was electrocuted to death at their family home. And the circumstances of the death are simply incredible. The father of the house had rigged the mains electricity through a wire and had attached that very wire to his metal motorcycle trailer. He felt that this would be a good deterrent from any thieves that may try and steal it in the night. But far from protecting his livelihood and his family, the deadly trap was only ever going to snare one person, his own son. His son, being of an inquisitive nature, had touched the electrically charged trailer, and the full force of the mains electricity surged through his tiny body. And as it did so, it stopped his heart, and he fell to the ground dead. On finding his son, the father tried to cover up his crime, but CCTV cameras at the location showed that the father had picked up the lifeless body of his son and then fled the scene. He then dumped his dead child's body under a tree, and to further eradicate all trace of his crime, he sold the motorcycle trailer for $60. And with the money, he then fled to Preah Vihear province to stay with relatives. But they had already heard of the crime via social media and quite rightly insisted that he hand himself in. He did so, and now he faces a court to explain how it is he managed to murder his own son. Last week, I saw someone in a bar tweaking. Now, do you know what tweaking is? Hopefully not, as it is a side effect of taking too much of the highly addictive drug methamphetamine. And this week, this woman here was arrested in Phnom Penh for her own tweaking episode. But where she carried out her tweaking will, I promise you, amaze you. But before I reveal to you where she was to have her drug-induced seizure, I really need to show you what tweaking is, don't I? Now, luckily for us, the internet has a few examples, so let's have a look at what we are talking about. This is our first guy. He's on a sidewalk and you can see he's doing some very erratic things. What he's trying to do here is actually put on his shoe. But look how his leg moves, his hand moves. And this is the sort of behavior that you'll see all the time with meth users. With this second example, we have a man with his son shopping in America. And as he rounds the corner of the aisle, here is a woman completely whacked out on meth. Now allow me to quote from the National Library of Medicine, and what they say is, after 3 or more days without any sleep, the addict becomes paranoid and easily agitated. It is this stage that is termed as tweaking. This leads to outbursts of frustration and agitation, as well as extremely erratic behavior. Tweakers are highly unpredictable and can be a danger to themselves and to others. Now you know that tweaking is highly erratic behavior by addicts. We need to go back to the woman in our story and back to Phnom Penh. Because with your newfound knowledge, I think you will be shocked when I show you this next photo, showing where this woman was doing her tweaking. Yes, a woman was seen by a horde of stupefied onlookers as she was hanging out of a 7th-story window, erratically shaking her body. Some onlookers actually said it looked to all the world like she was dancing. And we now know why they would say that. The incident took place at around 8 a.m. in Sihanoukville. Local residents became concerned after they spotted the woman hanging out of the window, flailing her body about. Police were called in, but it took 2 long hours to take her into protective custody. When in detention, she was administered a drugs test, and to the surprise of absolutely nobody, it came back positive. Now, it's also easy to look upon these people as fools, but trust me, I myself, as an ex-addict to alcohol, can tell you this much. These people are trapped in a version of their own hell. And although it may look like they are dancing, they are in fact dying slowly. Finally, this week, what happens after the arrest? I try to do as many follow-up stories as I can, as I feel it's just to see the criminals pay for their crimes. Well, on this occasion, I can show you not only the criminals, but also them making up for their wrongdoings. A gang called the PT Gang, which is really ironic considering their punishment, was detained and arrested for violent behavior. This, aggressive group of thugs terrorized those in their neighborhood, and it seems nobody was immune to their violence, as they even beat up small children selling peanuts so they could steal their money. But it was not just kids, as one innocent motorist was thrown off his motorbike at speed and was very seriously injured. The police had had enough of their rampage and pulled them all in, and their punishment was to be very swift indeed. The first phase was a haircut that would shame any teenager. Have a look at these embarrassing trims and note the next kid in line who obviously takes huge pride in his hair. Well, he's also going to get what looks like a girl's bunches. But it was not just that, as the PT gang, quite ironically, were then forced to do PT, physical training. Press-ups, squat thrusts, and every teenage lad's favourite, the thrusts and the jerks. It is hoped that through this shaming, it will amend their behaviour, although I myself feel the real effect is the family is also shamed, and they will keep a much closer eye on their wayward sons from now on. We are running a little long this week, so let us conclude with a story that keeps on bouncing back with some regularity. And that is headlines like this one. 60 workers injured in major truck accident. And this story comes hot on the heels of this other headline this week. Factory workers injured in truck smash. In the first incident, a major accident involving around 60 workers occurred in Kampong Speu province. Some of the workers were so very seriously injured they needed to be rushed to hospital. The incident itself took place on National Road number 4, and according to local police, the truck, driven by a young male, slammed into the back of a car with some force, a car that the truck driver completely failed to see. In the second incident, 20 people were injured, with 6 of them badly injured, and again, many needed hospital treatment. Now, headlines like this are unfortunately common. Here are some more for you. 30 garment workers injured in a truck accident. 42 factory workers injured in an accident. 80 garment workers injured after truck slides off-road and overturns. In fact, last year it was announced over 10,500 workers were involved in traffic accidents while travelling to and from their place of work. And that was just in the first 9 months of 2023. And 160 people died. A spokesman of the National Security Fund was very concerned and said, to reduce deaths and injuries, the authorities must tighten traffic laws as well as enforce those laws fairly and transparently. He also added drivers should be tested to see if they are under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And that is a problem that is considered by many to be at the root of many of these accidents. That alcohol or drugs may have been used by those drivers that are responsible for the lives of so many. And maybe it is that which is causing this avalanche of accidents. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week. And as we round the final bend, we have the end of the show, which is the weather, of course. Now you'll notice a brand new feature. Well, hopefully you will. And that is, I've put the precipitation on the screen. Can you see that blue line? Which will approximate as how much rain is coming in next week. And it's an awful lot, really, because we've got thunder, we've got lightning, we've got all sorts of sky shenanigans right across the board. The humidity's up at 84%, and your maximum temperature will be about 33 degrees. This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly Roundup.